Hi everyone, it's Evan here from the Trade Risk on Monday, March 13th. We're intraday right now. I hope you had a nice weekend. I'm going to be talking about some trade ideas, multiple time frames, and some different patterns. So some that are breaking out right now, some in consolidations, some that are trying to emerge from a bottoming pattern. So we got a whole host of sort of different looks depending on your strategy and some different time frames out there. So got some trade ideas. Before we get into that, I do have a webinar that I'm hosting next Tuesday, entirely free. It's going to be on market regime filters. So how market regime filters can simplify your trading. We're going to talk about what they are, how you could sort of break down and classify the market. We're going to spend a lot of time looking at market internals again. Did something similar to that a few months ago and going to build on top of that webinar. So that's next Tuesday. You can head to thetraderist.com/webinar or click the link that's appearing right now. That'll bring you to the page. Just drop your email in there and you'll be all signed up. It's at 1 p.m. Eastern and there's more info on that page. So I hope to see you there next week at 1. So let's take a look at some of these trade ideas. We'll briefly touch on the S&P 500. You can see a super boring day so far, very much in wait and see mode. We got a busy week ahead of us with the Fed. We got quadruple witching. There's other macro data out there. So there's a lot going on. The market, I think, understands this, and it's really sort of standing still here, just sitting inside of last Friday's range in the middle of sort of this larger range that we're in from last week's lows to the prior week's highs. So about a 5.235 to 240 range, give or take. That seems to be the bigger picture, but for now, very boring out there. So let's look at some ideas. Let's build our watch list. That's what this video is for. Different types of names here, so it's going to depend on your time frame and strategy. I'm not saying to go out there and buy any of these today, but it's something certainly to pay attention to. So the one that everybody's talking about the most, we'll start there. That's Alibaba. This seems to be on everybody's radar. That is a bit concerning to me, but I like the pattern equally as much. Not involved in it, but I am paying attention to see how this closes. It's had multiple attempts at this 104 level. You can see it's had a lot of intraday runs and they've gotten faded, and then they've caused the stock to sort of pull back. We've seen it multiple times already. This time, it does look like volume is certainly picking up here, so it is a bit more significant. The expansion in range today, a bit more significant. So clearly looks like there's some more energy behind this. You can still see the fade though. Again, we're a couple hours before the market close, so we'll have to see how this finishes the day. But above 104, that's the big hurdle. A lot of eyes on it, so it could be messy, could need some back and forth, might come back and retest and try and shake some people out and then get going. So keep it in mind, but still a great looking setup, multiple time frames. I like it as a breakout trade. Next, we're going to look at QSR. So QSR had a big run up through February, and it's had a nice sort of methodical pullback to the 20-period moving average. My subscribers know that I love these types of pullback patterns. I like when we get these big momentum bursts and then clean pullbacks, very slow, deliberate selling into a 20-period and then finding some support there. So I'm all over this. I'm looking at it. No position right now, but QSR looks pretty interesting to me. Weekly time frame equally as good. So QSR, pullback traders, pay attention to that one. Twilio, so this is one that we tried sort of bottom picking here, or playing for a reversal a few weeks ago. We got dinged out on this washout here below $30 or around $30, and it looks like it's picking up again. I'm no longer in this. Again, we were in this around here. I believe this was the entry day on the 24th, and then we got shook out in here, and you can see it's starting to lift back up again. The tricky thing about these patterns, take a look at the weekly time frame below the 20 period, below sort of a bearishly aligned MACD here on the 8 and 20. Those things always tend to cause headaches, at least for me in my experience, my trading style perhaps. So you do have to be cautious with them, but it is a pretty valid, it is in the process of potentially bottoming out. You could get a trade back to these highs here, then maybe a breakout. You had a lot of volume in February. So something that's interesting. Twilio can move pretty quick, so keep an eye on that one. VLO, this one's up next. This is a name that we're in already. We were in this last week or the week before in the 66 area. So We got a pretty good fill on this. This is an energy name. This is something that's been holding up very well. It's very resilient versus the slide in oil and the energy sector. So if you want to play for a rebound there, consider a name like this. Again, we own it, but consider a name like this that is showing some pretty good relative strength so far. And again, you could play for a breakout of this pattern here. You could try and catch it back in the middle of this range, but you can see the weekly chart, lots of consolidation in here, holding up pretty well. Something to throw on the radar there if you're looking at a stake there in XLE. Next, the last two actually we're going to look at are weekly trade setups, or at least that's the way I would view them. CTRP, so you can see this one moving 2% on Monday here. You can see trying to emerge from a multi-year base here in between this $40 and call it $49, so about a $9 range, but this one's been moving sideways, very clean, getting to the upper level here. Do need to be careful of a fade. You got to be careful that this is range bound and it's going to fail again, but for now I think $49, that's more or less the trigger. If you go down to the daily time frame, you can see all the points that it failed in here, so you're looking for that strong close. You got two strong days here. You had Friday was sort of a day one. You get the continuation today. Not a tremendous amount of volume, but it is early yet today, so it looks like we will finish above average. So something to consider, CTRP. And then finally, WYNN. WYNN Casinos, we've talked about this one for a while now as it's moved sideways in this, almost actually, it's basically a year today, last April. We popped up to this $100 level, and now we're in March, so just about a year, and we're still trading sideways at this $100 level. So back to the weekly time frame, you could see this could turn into a nice long continuation pattern here off of the 2016 lows, 2015, 2016 lows. So a trigger above, say, 105, 106, depending on how much room, how much confirmation you want to use. You could be entering today, adding to it on more strength, or you could just wait until it starts clearing above all of these. So lots of ways you could play this. Something to consider though, nice, clean, tight, long sideways horizontal pattern there. So that's WYNN. That's the last trade idea. Hopefully these names give you something to think about. And again, don't forget the webinar next Tuesday. You can go to thetraderisk.com/webinar, drop your email there, and you'll be registered. That's about it for me. So hope you had a good Monday, and I will talk to you again soon.